Everybody online, apologies for the slight technical issues. This is the first time we've tried to do this. If it's a success, we will do it again. Either way, we will learn from it moving forward. So my name is, most people will know certainly in the room, my name is Michael, so I'm the Chief Exec at PA. I was appointed as the permanent Chief Exec, seemed like a lifetime ago. It was April of last year. I'm going to introduce some of my exec colleagues into the room. So we've got Charles, who's going to wave, who looks after asset management. Susanna, who looks after all things new build, development, growth. We've got Simon, who is surveys. In September, we knocked on just over 20,000 doors for residents to ask them their views on us as an organisation. We've got just under 6,000 responses in that exercise, and that reinforced, to be fair, what we already know. So the headlines which are available on our website: 38% of residents weren't satisfied with the service PA provides. So 38%. 62% were, 38% were not. On repairs, approximately 40% of residents were dissatisfied with the repair service. 50% of residents were dissatisfied with the way we deal with antisocial behaviour. And a whopping 75% of residents were unhappy with the way we deal with complaints. There were some positives within it, but broadly, we were getting a message that says we need to do better. Good news is we do know that, actually, quite open, we need to get better, and we're committed to doing that as an organisation. We also looked at other tenure types as well as our kind of renters. Our shared owners broadly gave the same set of messages, slightly more dissatisfied. Our leaseholders, and then also any specialist provision across the organisation. So we put onto our website some of our initial plans in respect of how we're planning to address those issues. So I'm going to kind of meander through some of the things we are currently doing, and obviously we're going to open up for questions as we go through. So number one, repairs. It's clear we underinvested in our homes over the last 5 years. And it's clear. It's clear when I go out and look at estates, when I visit people in their homes, the amount we've invested has not been enough. So we are committed from the 1st of April, in the next 12 months, to spend an additional £10 million on property. £10 million more on your homes. And we will do that for the next 4 years. And so next year within our budget, we have allocated £50 million to invest in homes, invest in communities, naturally, to start to get back to where we should be. And we have no magic wand, it is going to take us time to get back to that point. The £10 million more in respect of repairs and maintenance. In the Midlands, our delivery model is split. We have our own workforce who deliver repairs in Nottinghamshire and Northamptonshire. And then we've used Waits to deliver repairs in Leicestershire. Waits have been in place in one form or another since 2009. From the 1st of April, the vast majority of repairs will be delivered by our own workforce. So the contract with Waits ends at the end of March. And residents have said to us that's what they want us to do. They want us to move to our own workforce. That's what we will do. The reason why I say the majority is there's an inevitability we'll need some specialist contractors, do some specialist types of work, whether it's drainage, something to do with a roof, etc., etc. But our plan to the 1st of April to move all of the repairs to in-house provision. Our in-house team get better feedback than Waits. So we think that's going to be a real positive for residents across the Midlands. London and the South East. We exited Forton some of you will know this, at the end of May last year, I think the 1st of June technically, we contracted with Waits on an emergency basis for just over 11 months in order to have continuity of service. We are currently out to market for new contractors in London and the South East. We will appoint a major contractor, that's the fact, and that will come into place from the 1st of June. But we are looking at different models of delivery. So for instance, in London at the moment, we're using a organisational technology platform called Plentific, which enables smaller firms to bid for work and to actually ensure we can carry on driving the outstanding repairs down. So we're committed to using different models within London. Over time, we are planning to create a DLO, direct labour organisation, in London and the South East. And that is going to take us some time because we've got to start with a blank piece of paper. But our plan is much more localised in delivery and to actually use people that understand your homes, your communities, and actually care. The big changes on repairs and maintenance, we hear very clearly the service is not good enough. And we recognise that as well. Neighbourhoods. When I started back in 2023, we had approximately 34 neighbourhoods and 34 neighbourhood coordinators. The neighbourhood coordinators have become home-based, are based in the neighbourhood. So we have changed that quite dramatically. We now have 56 neighbourhoods that are smaller, approximately 400 homes each. And the challenge we have tasked each neighbourhood coordinator with is know the person behind the door, know the community in which you actually are, in which we're operating. So we have 56 neighbourhood coordinators in place. We are going to recruit another 9 or 10, so we can cover holiday, illness, etc., etc. So 65 neighbourhood coordinators whose job will be to actually listen to local residents, understand the community, and help residents access services when they need to. Really important move going forward. We will have a neighbourhood plan for each neighbourhood. That will happen as we go through the early autumn. So essentially, everybody will be able to look at their own neighbourhood and see what is planned and actually feed in to how we manage that area. Each neighbourhood coordinator, thanks to Simon, has also been given £7,500 budget to spend as they deem fit within the neighbourhood. Okay. That could be as simple as saying, actually, we'd like some outdoor furniture, we'd like some benches, we'd like some gardening done better, we want some flower beds, etc., etc. Then we want an area to dry our clothes. We're going to try and empower our frontline staff. So that's going to be important moving forward. The neighbourhood coordinators will be visible and will also hold, as a minimum, monthly catch-ups with all of their residents. We're going to advertise it very explicitly on notice boards, etc., etc. But the challenge for us is, as they walk around the neighbourhood, do they know the people who live there? So can they say, hello, Tony, how are you? Yeah? Can they actually connect on a one-to-one basis? That will be a significant change moving forward. Rents and service charges. So it's been pretty tough for everyone. Very tough for our residents, we know that. Okay. On service charges, overall, service charges are coming down by 7%. So reducing, not increasing. 7,000 residents will see a reduction. 2,500 residents will see an increase of less than 50 pence per week. There are some instances where service charges will go up, and that will be primarily because of grounds maintenance, where actually the contract hasn't been specified, but all of the areas that we're responsible for have been included. So the vast majority of residents should see a reduction in service charges. Now, we've still got more to do on service charges. Every time I go out, residents will say to me, sometimes they don't come and do the service. So the cleaners aren't coming as often as they should. The grounds maintenance people need to do a better job. You need to buy the services better as an organisation. So we will be laser focused on value for money around service charges. We also want to get to a point where residents can determine the level of service. And that's going to be quite tricky because we ask 100 residents the same question, we may get 20 different answers. We'd like to get to a place where you actually have a choice on the level of service provided in your neighbourhood. It's going to take us a while to get there. So overall, positive news on service charges, but we are looking to improve the outcome of the service charge, whether it's cleaning or grounds maintenance. We have set up a small number of pilots in respect of cleaning, where we are now employing our own cleaners in blocks. So we're moving away from an external contractor and employing our own cleaners. Okay, we are seeing whether that actually produces cleaner buildings, but also better community by having a permanent person who's responsible for that site. I'm optimistic that that actually will make a difference to our residents, but again, the proof of the pudding, as they say, is in the eating. So service charges, positive, I think, given where we were. Okay, but we do recognise it's been very, very tough for everyone. Rents, less good news. Rents, we follow the government formula on rent setting. So basically, the government set out a rent policy, and we have to follow, or we follow the rent policy as most providers do in the sector. So the majority of rents for general needs, so renters will go up by 7.7%. Shared owners and leaseholders, well, shared owners will go up in accordance with the lease agreement that's in place already. So less good news from that perspective. We will continue to make available support funds for residents. So in the current financial year, we allocated £1 million to support residents facing hardship. Okay. We will do the same in the new financial year. So I would encourage residents who are facing financial hardship to actually speak to us about how we might be able to help. And that is really, really important for us, and we really want people to come and speak to us about that situation. We know it's difficult sometimes to ask for help, but we would like people to do that for us. We can also help where there might be some funding from other organisations. So again, we can actually help people apply for funds from third parties, organisations that aren't PF. So again, we have a team, a specialist team who deal with that. But we do recognise it's tough, and that's why unashamedly Simon and the team, Charles, Susanna, have been tasked with actually driving costs down wherever we can. And we look at ourselves, and the question we ask ourselves is, you know, if this was our own business and we actually owned it, would we spend money in that way? That's really, really important as a test perspective for us. So positive or more positive on service charges, rents, we're following government guidance around that. We want to be an organisation that's led by residents. And I know that's easy to say. I have met many residents in their homes. I've been out to many communities, and every resident that has contacted me in the last year, I have responded to personally. Every resident that's asked me to meet them, I've met with them. So we want to be very resident centred, and we want the voice of the resident to drive what we do. We've refreshed the resident assembly, building on the good work of colleagues who've been on the assembly for a number of years. So Linda, I was seem to embarrass her, Linda is going to wave. She's the new chair of the resident assembly. And Linda has been a resident for a number of years, and will challenge us assertively on behalf of residents, and that's what we want. That's what we want. The resident assembly will be more diverse. It will have some younger people on, definitely people spread across our geography, plus across our tenure types. We are also by July 24, having a youth assembly for younger people. So people up to the age of 18, because we want to hear what it's like for a younger person to live in our communities. I want to feel what it's like for them when they walk home from school at the end of the day. So big changes on resident engagement. We are still going to carry on working with residents around performance improvement. We're going to move away from the term scrutiny. We're going to try and work together to improve. We all want the same thing. Okay? I want to provide warm, affordable, safe homes. Okay? I want to provide communities that people want to live in. And I think residents want the same. So we all want the same thing. So I'd like us to work together to try and get there. I'm asking people to take a leap of faith that we are going to do what we say we're going to do moving forward. Contact centre. So Sally's smiling at me. She's in charge of the centre with colleagues. Right, too many residents say to me, we have to wait 45 minutes. Not acceptable. Okay, it's not acceptable. We have a new phone system coming in place at the turn of at the end of March, early April. That will make a difference. We have set ourselves a target. It doesn't even sound great when I say it. That within the next year, nobody will have to wait longer than 15 minutes on the call. And that doesn't sound great. I get that. It's better than 45 minutes. And the challenge then is, can we get down to 10 and can we get down to 5? Okay. But I know it's frustrating for residents. And part of the frustration is you're having to call up to ask what's happening on your repair. That's not great. So we have to find a way of actually messaging back to you what's happening on your repair so you don't have to ask us. So one of Ben's challenges, he's in his 3rd week now, so I can talk about his challenges, will be to actually look at my PA and start to make it fit for purpose. Push information out. Yeah. So you're not constantly chasing us about when repairs will be done. Okay? So one of our challenges is the amount of repeat contact, our problem. So we're committed to making big improvements there. We did invest significantly in the call centres. We've got more people in there and we're determined to get that to work. But we know currently it's too long. Building on that, running through the whole theme of all of the feedback we get, which says we're rubbish at communication. Pretty much the theme we get from people. Okay. So we have been trying very hard to improve our communication. Still got an awful long way to go. And that's both how we communicate when we speak to each other, how we communicate from a written form, the clarity of the communication, and importantly, the empathy. So again, one of our challenges as an organisation is put yourself in the resident's shoes. If you had that response, how would you feel? If that was your mom, how would you feel? If you were a child, how would you feel? We have to understand that from an empathy perspective, and we have to work a lot better at responding. That links neatly into complaints. Lots of people are dissatisfied with the way we deal with complaints. And to be fair, I agree. I agree with that. So we are committed to doing a root and branch review of the complaints process, completing that review by the end of March. Okay, we have some residents working with us on that. Samantha Borough, if she doesn't mind saying this, has kindly volunteered to be part of that. Samantha experienced one of our worst service failures, probably ever. So she's going to work with us on that, but we'll also get other residents involved in that process. So complaints, big challenge moving forward. Antisocial behaviour, again, an area where we've got lots of negative feedback. And whilst it doesn't happen a lot, when it does happen, it's actually really bad. Okay, so we have to act quicker, we have to understand the situation clearer, and we have to work better with third-party agencies. So again, Emma Conlon, who's also here, is smiling, for those of you that can see, has just taken over Tenancy Solutions, and we'll be working through what that looks like moving forward to give a better outcome for residents. That also involves sometimes working with other organisations. Talked about neighbourhood plans, and they're going live sometime in the autumn. We're still committed to being environmentally friendly as an organisation. We have 100 homes in Leicester, some of our very worst homes, being improved from an energy efficiency perspective. We have a requirement to ensure all of our properties are categorised as EPC-C by 2030. Giles has reliably informed me we're going to achieve that in 2029 and try and bring that forward. But we know energy is expensive, so if we can make the homes more efficient, naturally we'll be better for everyone. So that's going to be important moving forward. Decent homes, we have a requirement to make all our properties decent. So last year we had circa just over 100 properties that were non-decent by the end of March. We are committed that this year, by the end of February, a couple that will move into early March, all our properties will meet decent home standard. Okay. Decent home standard is not high, for the record. So we are also bringing in the PA housing standard, which Charles and the team will work through during the summer months, which will set out the standard for a PA home. It's going to be above decent homes. But also longer term, once we do the backlog plan maintenance, looking at the length of time residents have kitchens and bathrooms. Bathrooms is currently 35 years, kitchens 25 years. Okay. Yeah, I see Linda and a few people pulling faces only in the audience. We had a conversation being open with the board where I did say to the board members, if anyone's got a kitchen that's 25 years old or a bathroom that's 35 years old, please put your hand up. Get many hands going up. We're going to move away from that time period model to move to a scenario that kitchens and bathrooms are replaced when needed. So logically, there's a family of 4 versus a single person, kitchen might get more worn with 4 people in the house rather than 1 person in the house. Okay? So we're going to move to a more sensible model. Now, we're still going to ask people to look after their kitchens and bathrooms. We're not going to ask you to damage them to get it replaced. We're going to ask you to look after them. Our commitment is to move to a model of replacing when needed, which I think is the right model. It's going to take us a few years because I need to do the backlog. Talked a bit about the backlog maintenance. Talked about the £10 million we need to spend additionally this year. We need to do that for 3 more years because our backlog on planned maintenance is £40 million. Okay, so 10 million a year for 4 years, we might get back to where we started. So lots to spend around that. So there's some of the themes that are coming out of the TSM, some of the themes that when I speak to residents, they talk to me about looking ahead. Looking ahead. So what do we want? We want to build homes that we're proud of. So 600 new homes in 24-25 is the plan. We want to build more rented where we can, as opposed to shared ownership. But we want to build properties that last, and that when Susanna and the team go back in 10 years' time, they can say, we are proud we built that. Okay? We are proud we built that. That's a PA build. Look how nice it is. Look at the quality. We don't just build the building, we're building homes. In homes where people live. Building a community. We need to think about how the property, how homes will age over time. It's not just about putting a building up. That's the worst thing we could do. So we need to look at that going forward. Spoken at length to residents at Canada Court around lifts, bane of my life, lifts. And we also have the view that occasionally we're going to have to spend more to spend less. So we need to put better quality in order to actually have a longer term value from a life cycle perspective. Common sense in many ways, but that's what we need to do. So we want to build homes and communities Suzanne and the team are proud of. We want to build them snag free when we hand them over. I know that's a big challenge, but we want to build them snag free. So that when you move into a new PA home, it's joyous, not a list of things that you need to get prepared to your property. We want to build safe communities. Okay, we've got a lot of properties where if you were starting again, you wouldn't build them the way you build them. They're rabbit warrens, I can say that. Rabbit warrens, they're dark, there's no lighting. So we need to think how we can make those communities safer and more welcoming. But we want to be led by the residents because we don't always know what's best. Probably mainly we don't know what's best. So we have to listen to the people who live in our homes. So we want our communities to be safe, we want them to be welcoming, we want our properties to be warm, we want them to be affordable. And we want, most importantly, for the people that live in them to be proud of their home. Be proud of your home, because it is your home. And we will think about where you live as your home. Not as a building, not as a structure, as your home. We want to be an organisation that we start to rebuild the trust with residents. I think that we've started to do that over the last 9 months. I think residents are starting to trust us again and starting to recognise that we're not going to defend the undefendable. We're going to say sorry when we get it wrong. We're going to have to say no sometimes, but we're going to have to explain why it's no. We're going to have this adult to adult conversation. So we want to build the trust back with residents. We want you clearly to have a stake and a say in how we run our business. Okay? Because we're here to provide homes. That's what we're here for, nothing else. So we want you to have an important role to play in that. We do need some patience. And anyone who's met me face to face recognise I ask for patience, I occasionally ask for forgiveness. But I promise that I will do everything I can to make it better for everyone who lives in a PA home, both currently and in the future. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go to Emma, see if we've got any questions. I'm going to take any questions in the room.
Got lots of questions online. So, is there anything in the room first?
Linda.
Can I ask how you're meaning to perhaps increase training or enlightenment within your neighbourhood coordinators?
Yep.
To try and identify where your more vulnerable people are? Because I feel that there are probably a lot of vulnerable people that won't want to come forward, and that your neighbourhood coordinator is probably the best person to know from having spoken to them or had an experience with a problem they've had. They're not all tech savvy, they can't think about my PA. So sometimes that one-to-one, and I mean, obviously that's something that I hope this new resident assembly can kind of bring forward, because, you know, if we don't know our tenants, we can't always provide them with the best service.
So I agree. So we want to be an organisation that listens to all voices, not just the noisiest voices, all voices. And we have to understand the vulnerabilities, challenges, strengths of our residents. And we need our residents to trust us to talk about that, Linda. So we need them to trust us. And the neighbourhood coordinator role is to know the person. So that's deliberately what we're saying, is to know the person behind the door. Not know the door, not know the property number, know the person. And in that way, they become the conduit for the service, and they become the person that you can go to or somebody can go to and say, well, actually, I am having a difficult time. I can't use my PA but I've lost the will to live waiting 45 minutes on a call. So can you help me? So that is the model. And what we also have to do then, we need to have a process for delivering the service. So we need to have a process where actually if you need a repair, how that gets recorded. But there are instances where residents will be particularly vulnerable. And vulnerabilities can change over time. So people can have mental health issues, challenges that change over time. Yeah, sometimes some years you might feel better, some years you feel struggle. We also need to adapt our service to that. But if we don't understand the person, we cannot do that. So the first step is to do. Sally's 100% on board for that.
Yeah. So there's one theme online around shared owners. So how are we going to ensure shared owners have a voice at PA? And how do we ensure that PA know the responsibilities? There are responsibilities versus.
So shared owners, understandably, in many instances, have not been happy with the level of service that PA has delivered to them. So on the positive, the resident assembly, I think will be around 12 people, has at least 2 shared owners on that group. At least 2, could be 3. Yep, it's 3. In addition, so actually there will be a voice through the resident assembly loud and clear. We are also setting up a subgroup of the resident assembly specifically focused on shared owners, because we do want to hear very clearly what shared owners think and actually how we respond to that. So I hope that alleviates some of the concerns. Obviously, we need to do something with the feedback we get, but that will be the mechanism to do. So I do know that they feel that they're not listened to. But that's our response to start to do that. Okay,
then there's a lot of themes around ASB, how we're managing or tackling it as the viewers at the moment are very good at it.
Okay, well, that's reinforced by the tenancy metrics. 50% of people say we're not very good at dealing with antisocial behaviour. So Emma's team in Tenancy Solutions includes management of antisocial behaviour. We are undertaking a root and branch review of how we deal with it. We are going to look at other organisations, see what good practices we can find. The long and short of it is we need to deal with it quicker and more decisively and nip issues in the bud before they become issues. So the starting point will be through the neighbourhood coordinators. They will know the people, they will be able to actually speak to people and say, can we just work this out? Instances you cannot work it out, then we need to give it to the specialists within Emma's team to deal with it. But I know that it takes us too long. I know that residents are saying you keep telling us to collect information, data, etc., but then what are you going to do with it? So we need to do it much quicker. We do need to work with agencies. There are instances where we've had antisocial behaviour that's involved other housing associations, private tenant or private homeowners, private tenants, etc. Fly tipping is a big issue for us. We've kind of created a challenge for ourselves. We've got quite good at collecting fly tipping. It's good until then people have realised we're quite good at collecting fly tipping. So you just tip more stuff for us to collect. So we need to use some cameras more assertively, prosecute more effectively.
And then there's a whole strand around service charges. So along the lines of what is the admin fee that we pay for in service charges and service charge transparency statements.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Simon to pick up some of those around service charge statements and transparency. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting on, so there's a management fee within the service charge which covers the cost of everything that wraps around the services that are delivered. So in order to deliver a grounds maintenance service, a cleaning service, whatever it might be, we have people who liaise with our contractors, monitor their performance, deal with any issues. We have a central team which deals with the service charge accounting. So there's a number of staff costs that feed into the management fee. We then have a separate admin fee, which covers some residents who receive a more intensive housing management service. The admin fee covers that. In terms of transparency and making sure that residents are aware of the detail of the service charges and can challenge and query we're making some strides this year to really step up our engagement with residents around that. So certainly for the estates where we know there's going to be a lot of queries, where we've had a lot of queries in the past, we're proposing to arrange face-to-face on-site meetings with the residents over the next few weeks, where we'll come to you, we'll discuss the service charges for the year ahead and deal with any queries face-to-face. Anything more complex we'll take back to the office and deal with. We've increased resources in the service charges team in the year just gone to make sure we're better placed to deal with queries that come in around the changing financial year when there's always a peak in activity. And then more generally, longer term, we want to make sure that the central team which does the service charge accounting has strong connectivity to the neighbourhood coordinators out on the estates. There's a real joined up approach to understanding at a local level the quality of service delivery and issues that arise, and then feeds into the service charge accounts going forward. I hope that's okay with the summary.
Anybody got any questions in the room you want to ask?
Can I just ask some
Yeah.
questions we got sent in?
Yeah.
So we had a question from Honeysuckle Court. I'm going to read some of this out. Communication and challenge within the PA housing system is confusing because it's often passed from pillar to post with little accountability. Okay. What can you do to improve accountability, transparency, and information sharing with residents? Okay, so this partly is the communication theme we spoke about earlier. We need to get better at communicating. We need the technology, recognising that's not doesn't meet every resident's needs, to actually be a site where you can see everything around your home. You can see when repairs are due, you can see when your kitchen might be replaced, etc., etc. The neighbourhood plan will also set out broader work within the neighbourhood and within the in respect of priorities and what's been planned, things like communication, engagement, etc., etc. I've worked really hard over the last year telling the organisation that we are all accountable for dealing with issues, resolution, or even just answering simple, straightforward questions. And it doesn't matter from a resident's perspective, they don't see 7 departments, they see one organisation. So we are working hard to get accountability and ownership in the organisation, starting at the senior level where we're all responding to emails as we get them. But we have to stop residents being passed from pillar to post. We just have to stop it. It's frustrating for everybody. It's frustrating for me. So please bear with us, but we are determined to crack that nut. We had another question from St Cuthbert's Road about weights and pylon. So pylon in the kitchen contractors, let's be fair, they have not knocked it out of the park. They've overpromised, overcommitted, and are struggling to deliver the kitchens programme. So we know that it's not good enough. So we are talking to Pylon now about how that contract works moving forward. We are looking at appointing a secondary supplier to undertake some of the kitchen's work because Pylon cannot cope. So we do have some questions to ask ourselves around the evaluation and what we can learn from the appointment of Pylon, but they're not doing a great job at the moment, it would be fair to say. It also talks about weights. So we've talked about weights in the Midlands that will be exited, go to direct labour force from the 1st of April. This is probably hard to believe, but weights are performing better than Fortum in London and the South East. That may be hard to believe, but based on every metric, they are performing better. Still not good enough, and they're still not completing enough jobs. They're still not completing the kind of the more straightforward jobs on a regular basis within timescales, kind of non-urgent pieces of work. The new contract will help resolve that, but more importantly, it's for us to try different models of delivery. We carry on doing the same thing every year, we're going to get the same answer. So it shouldn't surprise us. We just replace weights with somebody else, we'll just get the same outcome over time. So we need to look at different models and challenge ourselves to how that works. We also need to get a lot better at voids. Void turnaround, that's going to be a big priority for us next year, because every property that's a void is a family that aren't in it. Okay, and that's criminal in one way. So we need to get a lot better at turning those around. So there's that question from Cuthbert's Road, a question from Honeysuckle Court. We've had quite a lot of detailed questions from Diana House in respect to service charges. So I'm going to pass those on to Simon and the team to come back explicitly, but they're very detailed questions on that. There was one question from Diana House around communal boilers. Basically, the cost is split amongst all residents within the site equally. The question was, well, if I'm on holiday for 6 months, why do I have to pay the same to everybody else? Partly because it's a communal boiler, and that's the way the sites work. And, you know, we know residents would like us to put individual boilers into flats and homes, but often from a planning perspective, we have no choice and we have to put in communal boilers because the planners tell us to, as opposed to listening to what the residents want and people who live in there. So unfortunately, that's the way the communal boilers work, that the cost is apportioned over properties on an equal basis broadly.
So then there's a whole theme around neighbourhood coordinators, generally asking, how do you find out who your NC is? How do we contact them? Would we consider allowing residents to direct contact as opposed to going through the call centre or email here?
Okay, so
Yep, so we have, it has taken a bit of time to recruit the neighbourhood coordinators, but they are all in post. Each notice board should have, if not pretty soon they will have, details of their neighbourhood coordinator. But we have made the challenge to the neighbourhood coordinator to knock on every door. I think I would allow them the time to do that. We've got some information coming out in Doorstep, which gives details of what the neighbourhood coordinator role does, and then going on the website, we'll start to put information on the new coordinator. But as Mike alluded to, we do have a number of neighbourhood coordinators who the turnover has been quite high to recruit for them, and it has taken a bit of time, but we are there now. So we should start to see that being out in our neighbourhoods now.
I suppose the next theme, the interrelated point, is around street properties. So residents are asking, we live in a street property, so not a large concentration of homes. How are we going to manage so they feel included and not isolated?
Yep, so one of the challenges for the neighbourhood coordinators by having smaller patches now is it doesn't matter whether you live in a block of flats or on a street, a property, that you get the same level of service. So I think we just need to allow the neighbourhood coordinators to get out there, knock on the doors. I see that happening all of the time. The information getting out to the neighbourhood, to our customers around the neighbourhood coordinator and who they are is happening. So if it's not happened now, I would expect that there'd be something coming out to them pretty shortly, because the neighbourhood coordinator has been asked to knock on the door rather than just sending a leaflet out and find out who people are.
we want them to knock on the door often
Often,
when
yeah.
people want us to. We don't just want it to be a one-off and if nobody's in, etc., etc. Tony.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just an idea for Sally's apartment for the neighbourhoods. First of all, we don't have sport. We do have a notice, but we haven't had
Anything put on it?
exactly. Number two, it would be useful that if they are knocking on doors, they do not get the answer first time, second time. Surely they could put a calling card in there
Yeah, absolutely.
to say we have, knocked on your door, not in. Are you okay? Contact us. Contact me. I think that's the way to progress further.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Application ways to local needs.
Hi, my name is Seema. I'm a resident of Cotton Close. Firstly, I just want to say thank you, Michael, and to the executive team for this wonderful opportunity, which I believe is groundbreaking with regards to, what you're doing here. I also want to sing the praises of my neighbourhood coordinator, which is Stephanie Hayes, who has been phenomenal in the short period of time that she's been there. She's knocked on everyone's door. She's made a point of getting to know the person, as Michael has been very keen to stress that is the strategy for PA housing. And also to Rog, Sean here, who's also been extremely helpful in trying to set up the residents committee. So there have been some great positive moves here that have been going forward, and it's really lovely to hear what you're saying, which is ownership. You're taking accountability of what's not working and how you really want to make things work and change. So it's a really positive, welcoming for me to hear that coming from all of you really. So thank you.
So we are 100% committed as an organisation to getting there. Okay, we're not where we want to be. We're not where the residents want us to be.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about other housing associations, to be fair. I don't care. I care about our residents and our homes. That's what matters to me. Whilst I remember, before Sally virtually kicks me, we are also extending opening hours.
Don't forget.
So we're going to extend opening hours from the 1st of May. We're looking at 8 till 6 to extend the opening hours. We're also looking to open Saturday mornings, 8 till 12.
And the customer services team.
Yeah, the customer services team. Over time, we are looking to extend 8 to 8. And also, you're going to need to bear with us on this. We are planning to have repairs carried out on Saturdays where residents want us to. Also to have surveyors come on Saturdays where residents want us to. Okay? If we are going to be a customer-centred organisation, we have to work the hours as an organisation that people want us to do. And if you are working full-time, then you may want us to try and come on a Saturday for a non-urgent repair. Or you may say to us, actually, can you come in at home at 7 in the evening? Okay, so we are going to look to do that moving forward. The new technology around the telephony system, we hope, will help. As we recruit new people into the organisation, we will be looking to recruit people who just want to work weekends. Okay, so we might build a whole new flexible and fluid method of working. We will also, as we start to look at repairs and maintenance, we are going to try and work with our communities to see if we can provide employment and training. So for young people, for older people, we're going to try and see if we can actually look at training and support for our residents and their families and how we might make that work. I do believe that if we can get to a place where residents are proud of where they live, our job is really easy. Because actually, the residents will be looking after the area, the communities, etc., etc. One of the things we are also piloting, extending, is handy people. I mentioned handy people yet, have I?
No.
So handy people will be something we provide at no cost to the residents, will be aimed at vulnerable residents or residents who cannot do a specific job, maybe because of their age, etc., etc. So we have some instances where we have very quite old residents who can't look after their front garden. They just can't. I went to a resident's house and there was a husband and wife. They're both in their 90s, best will in the world. They cannot do their garden. So I'd like us to start to do those things for people. Now I'm going to need the residents to work with us there, because this is for vulnerable residents or people who cannot do jobs themselves. It could be as simple as changing a light bulb. It could be helping somebody put a shelf up. It could actually be helping somebody put a plug on something. Okay, so we are looking to do some things that, you know, our residents have said to us will make a difference to them. And you're going to have to bear with us. We need to run these in small pilots to see what works, but that will be the plan. We need people to work with us in that space. Remember, we've got any more?
Yes, so the next themes are obviously around repairs and maintenance, around quality and the number of times we send a contractor to do a job because it's not up to a satisfactory standard.
Right, so I'm going to kick off and then I'm going to hand over to Charles. So, if I put my head in my hands then, I'm not sure I'm going to sell it. Sometimes it's just so frustrating. I see emails where a plumber's been sent and you need an electrician. Yeah. Somebody comes and says, I haven't got the right tools to do that job, etc., etc. And it's our responsibility, but the contractors have a role to play in this where they're sending the wrong person. So we kind of share that pain, but it is our responsibility. I'm going to hand over to Charles now, who's nodding sagely at me.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, we absolutely recognise that we don't always get this right, and I absolutely get the frustration when you know, you're waiting at home to get whatever it is to get repaired, and as Mike said, a plumber turns up when it should be a roofer or, you know, electrician instead of a carpenter, etc. I mean, there's slight extremes, but these things do happen. So we need to get better at diagnosis at the point that you report the repair, and also make sure that message gets fed through to the contractor and they've got the right skills with the right operatives to attend your property to carry out the repair. So with all the improvements around the services going forward that Mike has mentioned around the contractors, the in-house service, the expansion of our own workforce, you know, hopefully they will start driving those improvements going forward.
Conscious of time, we've probably got time for one more question. I do want to just spend a couple of minutes at the end before we close.
So a strand around how the 40 million planned investment is going to be allocated and what's the timescales and programme and how do we choose?
So timescale, 40 million is our backlog on planned maintenance. So we're planning to spend an additional £10 million each year for the next 4 years. That's the plan. And that will be anything from accelerating kitchens and bathrooms, windows, roofs, heating, etc., etc. And the prioritisation should be actually working through some of the worst properties first and moving forward. And it's I'm determined to get the properties in the state they should be better than they are. Okay, so I don't know if people can see this on the screen. So this is the pre-published copy of the corporate plan. Okay, some scribbles on the front. This will be coming out probably the next 6 weeks once we've had it finalised. Unashamedly, on the title, it's putting people first. Not properties, not buildings, putting people first. Okay, that's what this document is all about. So at the end, we talk about what will PA be like in 5 years' time. Okay, so this is what we're saying. This is what our residents have said to us will be important to them. I'm going to read this out. You listen to us. Our views shape your decisions. You do what you say you will do. If you get it wrong, you say sorry and fix it. We love our homes and communities and are proud of where we live. Our service charges are fair and accurate. It's easy to talk to you. We understand our responsibilities as residents, and we treat PA colleagues how we want to be treated ourselves. That's our ambition as an organisation. That's where we're aiming to go. But we need our residents to be with us. And that involves sometimes you telling us we're not great. It involves sometimes you saying, actually, that was great. That was really good and that exceeded my expectations. But it is a recognition we want the same thing. Want the same thing as every resident. Now, I want to walk around our communities and be proud. I want to actually, you know, kids going home from school to be safe. I want to deal with antisocial behaviour. I don't want people selling drugs on our estates. I want people to feel secure behind their front door. I want their home to be a haven. We've got a long way to go. I get that. And it's easy for me to say that's where we're going. But I kind of want you to be on the journey with us. Hold us to account. I know Linda and the team will do that. But actually support us on that. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to thank everybody who joined online. Thank everyone who came in the room. I'm going to thank colleagues for their assistance and Ben and the team for the technological support. We would like some feedback. We are happy to do these again if residents would like us to. If it's found it to be useful. If not, I'm happy not to as well, but we're in your hands. Okay, so I'm going to call it a night there. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Matt.